Is this? I don't see his assistant. Okay. I'm doing it. Okay. Let's see here. Oh crap. You got to press 9. I bet you that's it. I'm calling my wife.
Good afternoon, students, parents, and staff. This is Brent Campbell, Chief Communications Officer for Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools. I've got an important update for you today, some information about back to school that you may need to know.
The phone sounds just like him when you use it. Hey everybody, welcome to Camel Chat. I'm John McPherson, and I am here with him. You all know him, Brent Campbell, Chief Communications and External Relations Officer for Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools.
That's a mouthful.
Did I get it?
You got it. You got it right.
So we've known each other for a while, and I believe, I don't know if we met at Appalachian. I know we met after Appalachian. So
I'm not sure.
you came in August of 91?
Yep.
So we did not meet at Appalachian. I may have met you at a game later at Appalachian, but because I graduated in May of 91. Should have been out a year early, but you know, it's hard to leave the mountains. But as you know, Brent, we're very thankful that you agreed to do this. And I actually have known you for many years, and then also ran back into you because of some of the external relations that you guys do with the school system. And you were supporting something with the home builders, and we got to catch back up. And so I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, that was a great event, too.
Well, thank you.
Nailed it, 5K.
We had David Daggett on last week. And so, by the way, when we're filming this to where it's going to air, this is going to air. It may be, I think it's going to be in October, the first week of October. So, but it's just, I will ask you a question, and you're one of the people that I really want to ask this question at the end because I don't think you realize the impact that you make. I mean, it's, to tease you a little bit, it's like, it's not a copy at Xerox. It's not an elevator, you know, it's what Sherry Berry. I mean, with what you've done with your job and what you're, you know, everyone knows who you are. And everyone knows what you're calling about and things like that. I would hate to be the person that one day replaces you because where'd Brent go? You know, that type of thing. So let's start off the show like we always do, and that's question number 1. And, you know, it's Davie County, so let's go ahead and talk about it. Where are you from and how long you been here?
I'm from Davie County, Mocksville. Yeah, that's right.
Go Eagles.
The big city of Mocksville and the War Eagles of Davie County High School. Yeah, I graduated from there in 91. My parents are still in Davie County, still active in Davie County. Went to Appalachian.
Right.
Spent a little time in South Carolina with my first job in television, about 4 years, and then came back here to Fox 8 and migrated this way.
You know why I'm shaking my head. I have no problem with you working in South Carolina, but I do have a problem with you working for the Conway Chickens. So we'll talk about that in a minute. You know that we, thank God you don't have a mother.
Chanticleers.
Yeah, well, the chickens. So, so basically, I'm going to assume that you had a communications degree.
Correct.
Did you have Dr. Matovu?
I don't recall that name. I don't
So
think
that's how I met Austin Cavanis. We had a class together.
Okay.
Was Dr. Matovu, and Austin will tell you, well, John taught me one day because the teacher had a hoarse throat. And I'm like, well, I can't hear you. He goes, well, here's my notes. You teach. But let's see. Frank Aycock, did you have him?
Yes. Oh, yes.
I got a story I'll tell you off the air about Frank. And we've kept up after years because I was the individual who he kicked out of class to show about censorship. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes, I do.
So, all right. The next question I normally ask is, what's your favorite place to eat?
Oh,
and it cannot be a school cafeteria. I know that's what you want to say.
Yeah. No, that's a tough one. Gosh, I have a lot of favorites. I mean,
Where's the last place you guys went to eat?
The last place?
Yep.
600.
Okay.
600
How is it?
degrees. Great.
All right, I gotta go.
Really good.
I gotta go. My wife, I think, has been once or twice, and I just haven't had a chance to get down there. But everyone says it's really good.
it's pretty cool.
I've got a client. We actually have a closing after this, and he was calling me, and he goes, "Well, I don't know what to do. When can you show me?" And I told him, and he goes, "Well, we're going to get lunch first." And so he was at Cugino 4, and I'm like, "We got to go to Incendiary." I mean, that whole pocket now with, Alma and everything, just a great place to just hang out.
You know, I'd love to tell the story about that very area. I have on my resume tape from 20 plus years ago at Fox 8, when we were doing a story the day the mayor announced this initiative to build this research park. And I remember standing down there with nothing. There was nothing around. The place was falling apart. It looked horrible. And I'm shooting this stand up, trying to, boast that this is going to one day be something really special. And I remember stopping in that and saying, I almost can't do this because I don't know if I believe that this is going to happen.
You need to get that and then re-record it again.
And now, today, to look at it down there, it's amazing.
That is so awesome.
It's amazing.
So that's actually question 4 that I ask people about, Winston-Salem, where it's been. So we have to talk to you about that too.
Yeah.
So question 3 is what's your favorite thing to do? I know you're a social person. I'm talking to a couple people the other day, as I told you, they've been to your house for dinner, and you throw get-togethers for the big holidays and stuff. But what is your favorite thing to do?
I am a very social person. We kind of stick to a schedule though. We hang out. I like to be downtown. I really do enjoy downtown now, and being able to just park in one spot and walk to multiple places, enjoy dinner, enjoy somewhere else, hang out and listen to live music. There's so many choices. So probably an evening downtown it would be my go-to thing that I like to do. But college athletics too. I mean, I follow the Mountaineers. I still follow South Carolina a little bit. Chanticleers and all that good stuff, and then Wake Forest, of course. So I follow that, especially this time of year in the fall.
Right. Now, parents still in Davie. Your best friend, I already know who that is. It's your sister. And so are you just 2 of you guys?
Yep, just 2 of us.
All right, yeah. Very fortunate for you to have such a, you brag about her on Facebook all the time and stuff like that. So I want to take you back. You're getting your degree from Appalachian, and then what is it? It's WPDE. Mm-hmm. So you're a reporter there, and at the same time you're coaching the Sea Chicken. I'm going to do it, but the Sea Chicken cheerleading squad. How did that come about? Did you cheer in high school?
So I cheered in college at Appalachian.
Okay.
So I cheered at Appalachian.
That's right. That's where I met you. Okay.
Yeah, I cheered at Appalachian, and I worked for UCA, which is the company that runs summer camps and all the national competitions for cheerleading, like that you see on ESPN and whatnot. So I was working with them. When I moved to South Carolina, it just so happened that the Coastal Carolina, I lost my train of thought. Coastal Carolina's position was open.
Right.
Well, we weren't making a whole lot of money reporting on nights at the ABC station in Myrtle Beach. So I took that job as a second job and started coaching the cheerleaders at Coastal Carolina and was there for 2 years.
And from there to now, I mean, I know you look back and go, holy cow, what in the heck was, how much they changed in pay from now to then, and now Myrtle Beach is a larger market and everything like that. But in that industry, the little that I know is that you want to get to the next market. And so what got you up to WGHP? And as I told you the other day, the big jacket. Because I always remember it was like the big blue jacket that you'd always wear when you're reporting somewhere. Because when you were at WGHP was when I was watching the news, you know? So what got you there and what was that like?
So I interned at Fox 8 while I was at Appalachian.
Okay.
I did my internship at WGHP. So I got to know the station pretty well. Got my job in Myrtle Beach. It just so happened that one of our anchors in Myrtle Beach, Lynn Morehouse, moved to WGHP to anchor the 5 o'clock show.
Right.
As relationships go, she said, hey, we got this gig opened at WGHP covering Winston-Salem, filling in as an anchor, but your focus is going to be this partnership that we're starting with the Winston-Salem Journal. And we're going to have our studios in downtown Winston. Is that something you'd be interested in because you're from the area? Heck yeah. I applied, and it wasn't a lot of time, and I ended up moving up here in April.
Yeah, you were probably driving before you hung up the phone.
Yeah.
So, and that was, where was that located downtown? Was it in the Journal building?
It was in the Journal building, where it still is today.
Okay. So I know a couple people at Fox 8 that, when Julie first came here, I actually showed her houses.
Yep.
And she wasn't married at the time, and a great lady. And then I don't know if you remember Kennedy Crawford.
Yep. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So Kennedy's dad used to work with us. So I've known Kennedy since she was 8 or 9 years old.
Julie and I were at the same station in Myrtle Beach. So
I didn't know
I
that,
migrated
okay.
up to Fox 8. So did Julie.
Wow,
Just
okay.
a couple of years later. And so did my photographer at the time, Joe McCloskey, who is now one of the directors of media and communications for Wake Forest Baptist and
Okay.
Dream Health.
Wow, okay. So it is who you know, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of.
So you finished that, and I guess the thing about, I assume you're glad to be out of that now.
Yeah, yeah.
There was some fun to it. There was some. What were some of the challenges of being in that industry?
I think for me, the challenge toward the end became I wanted to be very invested in the story. I wanted to believe in what I was trying to make sure I was sharing, if it was giving a voice to a smaller person that maybe needed help being amplified because something wasn't right in government, or they saw something not right within their community, but they just needed help telling their story, but also just the good stories of people. I enjoy the stories of just people who do good things for other people and make an impact on the community. And it was becoming less and less of that. I was becoming less invested in the story that I was doing every day, and it was beginning to get hard for me to figure out, how do I make this story interesting for viewers if it's not even interesting to me? And that became my internal struggle. And in doing so, talking to folks, I realized there were a couple of positions open where I could tell stories that were really good stories, were happy stories, were fun stories. And a position at Arbor Acres came open, and I went over there for 2 years. They approached me and said, hey, we need some help with marketing, communications, kind of pushing our story out to the world. I mean, we have a lot of great people here and a lot of great things happening in this community. And so I decided to make the jump and give it a try, and loved it. And within that 2 years, this position came open, and I had developed a relationship with Dr. Emery, who was the superintendent at the time. Her team reached out and said, we're restructuring the communications team for the school district. We think you'd be a good fit. Would you be interested? I waited till 4 o'clock on the Friday, the day the job closed, to apply, because I still wasn't sure. I knew this wouldn't be a cakewalk, but I applied, and I haven't looked back.
You haven't looked back, and that's something that I really want to talk about, because you've kind of changed the position, and in today's world of instant communication, you have handled some things very, very well.
Thank you.
It's really funny. The people I say, hey, I'm going to go talk to Brent. It's like, oh my gosh, tell Brent I said hey, and all this stuff. Going back to the television industry, I think Charles Kuralt and Roy had the best jobs.
Yeah, Roy had a good gig, didn't he?
Yeah, that was the fun part of it. The sensationalism now. I occasionally watch the news. I'm going to hear about it from 12 people, with the Queen passing. It's like you couldn't go 5 feet and someone said, did you hear? And then you can go watch it. But I think you got out at a good time, because that is something very, very true about you. As over the years I've known, you do really care. I think you would do anything for anybody if you could help them out in some way, shape, or form.
Thank you.
Well, I speak the truth. So I don't think I'm telling you something you don't already know.
Well, I want to say I don't want to bash the industry of news, and I don't want to make it sound like that I don't think what they do is important, because it still is. But let's be honest, the way we communicate is completely changed, and that's impacted that industry. They have to fight with instant communication. So, their style of telling stories has changed, because they too are trying to get you instant information. And it's not always easy to get instant information or confirmation of what's happening. And they still have this struggle with being truthful and factual that the social media worms of the world don't have to do. So you struggle with all of these new entities out there on social media and on the internet that can put out information, true or not, and they want to be truthful and as factual as possible. And so sometimes they get left behind because people feel like they've already heard about this, may not be truthful or not, and then they hear it from one of these reputable media outlets. So I still have a very large piece in my heart for reputable news organizations, and I think they have a role in our society and in what we do, because they still do try to seek the truth and the facts, but they got to fight getting the truth, getting the facts, and getting the story right against all these people that don't have that vested interest. So it's interesting to see how that's changed and how the need to know now has changed that industry. We used to sit down and say, let's watch the 6 o'clock news. That was something families did. People don't do that anymore. Now it's let's go to my phone and see right now what's happening right this minute. And I heard this, and let's see what I can find. So they have a tough job.
Well, you know what I compare it to? They are the family-owned or the locally owned business in a sense of things. So you can go to the big box store and get it, or you can support local. And so when there is a big issue, or we get a Facebook from I'm not going to the larger places. I'm going to 12, 8, 2 to get it because and I'm on all three of them. So whoever gets me the information first is where you watch it. And then you jump around to see, has Fox 8 got a little bit more information? And Fox 8 has done an excellent job on that. And I think Channel 12 does a pretty good job too. The thing that I don't like now is I subscribe to the Journal, and then I get an alert. I go to try and read it, and it makes me sign in every time. And it's like, well, don't you guys? Yeah. So that's the thing that then I think that pushes people away. But you're absolutely right. I mean, we all know. I mean, how cool is it that Julie's back at work? I mean, that's just you don't see that with some of the bigger things, and you support those people. Cam's been on the show, and I mean, when he did it, it was totally different than when. Not as much when you did it, but now what they're doing. You're absolutely correct, and I don't.
Yeah, it's a changing industry, and they fight every day. But too, the reality people often say. I used to say this when I was in news. Why do you do that? Why do they do that? Why do they do that story that way? And my response is they're also a business. They do it because people watch. Obviously,
you got to bait the hook.
Well, people will go in and look at it. So if you're not watching it, they're probably going to change the way they do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to think of it in that term as well. People are still watching. They're still trying to get your attention. That's what they do. That's their job. So there's a piece of the pie in that, but it's a lot smaller these days for those types of media organizations than it was even 10, 15 years ago.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back with Brent Campbell, and I'm not saying the whole title. I can't. I mean, we'll get it. What's the nickname that the
Chief Communications Officer?
No, but what should she call you? The CCO or something? What is it? The co? What is it?
Oh, just CCO. Yeah.
Yeah, CCO. So we'll be back with CCO. Welcome back to Camel City Chat. I'm here with the CCO of WSFCS. That's it, isn't it?
We like our acronyms.
Goodness gracious, yeah. I'm looking around the room. I do have to ask you a question, and this is Brent Campbell, of course, as you all know, if you don't recognize the voice. And I told you I had to call someone to go, doesn't it go like, hi, I'm hi, this is Brent Campbell, Chief.
Good afternoon, students, parents, and staff.
Okay, so yeah, that's it. All right, perfect. So I'm noticing the boot here, okay?
Yep.
Moved here in '77, loved Wake Forest. Of course, I still have an affinity for Wake Forest, but graduating from App, that's kind of hard because they're scared to play us. With regards to the boot, that of course is the Deacon boot.
Yep.
Chris Kibler was a Deacon when I was going in high school, and I tried the head on because I was the mascot at Bishop McGinnis.
Oh, okay.
So the reason why I asked if you were in high school, my only letterman in all sports was mascot at McGinnis. I have a varsity letter with a little cheerleading thing on it.
Oh, no, cool. That's cool.
And so with what you did, I want to talk about, I want to, of course, come to the school thing, but where did this love of people and, if we needed your shirt, I say this a lot, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And you have to know a lot because of how much you care. Giving back to these kids, I realize, of course, there's a financial thing to it, but you're helping kids through all different phases of your career. Where did this love of cheering and helping the kids out and where did all this giving back to the community come from?
So as it relates to cheerleading, when I started at Appalachian, it just so happened that the guys that lived in the room beside me were cheerleaders.
Okay. What hall?
And we were in Cone, on the 7th
Still there.
floor. Yeah, 7th floor. And they were like, "Hey, you're a big dude. You got some muscle. We need you on the." Okay, let's see. Why not?
Your base is what they're trying to say.
I'm doing marching band too, but let's see. I always enjoyed marching band. Was always in marching band. Why not? Love the game day atmosphere. Why not be a part of it? Love the pageantry of college athletics. Gave it a whirl and just fell in love. And ended up leaving marching band after the second year and staying on the cheer team at App, and then just kind of got wrapped up in that world. And same kind of story when I came to Fox 8. It just so happened that the position at Wake Forest was open. And they were looking for somebody that could kind of combine. I don't have a dance background, but they needed somebody to kind of oversee dance team, coach the cheerleaders, work with the mascots, and bring it into the marketing perspective because it was moving under the marketing arm of the athletic department. So I went and had a conversation with them, and I thought this could be a fun kind of second job while I was at Fox 8, still needing that second job. And started it and didn't know it would last 15 years. But enjoyed it, loved every minute of it. And of course that morphed and grew and changed over time as college athletics changed. And I really became more of a show producer. I mean, there was the last couple of years for football games, for example, you know, with video boards and all this stuff that's a show. We were producing and writing, 180-page scripts. And we knew what was going to happen. We were producing a large 4-hour show. That's what college football and basketball ultimately has become. And the cheerleaders were a part of that, and the band was a part of that, and the dance team, and the mascots, and the video board, and the commercials, and the timeouts, and how did you piece all that together? And so it's kind of interesting how that really was very similar to television, scripting out an hour of news, and what goes where, and where do things happen, and how do you engage people in the stories. It's very similar. So that's kind of how those worlds aligned, but I loved every minute of it.
Well, now that you told me that, reeling in Jeffrey Griffin was probably... Jeffrey's going to do the show.
He's got a good voice.
He's
the voice.
I've known him since maybe 5th or 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
Maggie was the director for Mount Tabor Summer Enrichment.
Okay.
And so he would tag along with Mom, and then eventually was in shows and stuff like that. And great kid.
Yeah, I met him at Wake, and then he was with the district for a while, teaching some broadcasting classes, and now I think he's in the radio world. But
yeah, he's in the he home cooking again. We go to WSJS has now got a morning anchor and talking about local news and stuff like that, which is real important.
He's got a voice, boy, like no other.
Definitely. So I want to know what you do in this job, and then we got to talk about things that you've done excellent in this job. And I mean, what the heck is your job?
So,
and I know it just recently changed too, because you were Chief Marketing and Communications. Now you're Chief Communications Officer and Chief Communications and External Affairs. So what's going on?
So we kind of morphed over time. To the point of telling stories and how media has changed, so has the ability for school districts to tell their story. It used to be that we needed local media to help us communicate with parents. Perfect example, a snow day. How do we tell everybody that we're closed today because there's bad weather?
Snow Plan B's in effect.
We put it all over the news so that everybody sees it. Well, now we have the ability via, computer systems and phone call systems and video systems and social media to tell our story and to communicate directly with our parents. So over time, you've seen school districts, especially large urban districts like us, develop really a news department of their own, and that's a lot how we operate. We are our own news entity, and our stories are what's happening in our school, and our audience is our parents, and then our community stakeholders, and then the community at large. So we operate very much like a newsroom. We have a writer and a graphic designer and folks that manage our story. Everything from the banners you see on the websites, to the graphics, to the posters in our buildings, to the phone calls, to the videos. That we have an entire cable access news station that is funded via federal grant money, but that we run 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week programming on Spectrum Cable too, but you can also watch it online.
And this is where I can also watch school board meetings and stuff like that. And it just so I can ask in Stabler, I don't know if you can see, is that the phone?
That is the phone, and this one, depending on where I am.
So like you pick that up, and that's what he talks into, right?
That's it.
All right. And how many? So you pick that phone up and you say what you say, and I know there are people out there right now that are just waiting to hear it, but we'll get to it. how many people does that go to?
Phone calls are in upwards of 80,000 or so phone calls.
I'm sorry, I don't think you stuttered.
Yeah.
80,000 phone calls?
Yeah, so if you think that we have roughly 53,000 students,
Right.
a lot of students have multiple contact numbers, but some families opt to only have phone calls come to one phone.
Right.
Some opt to go to two. And then, of course, you got families that are siblings, so
Right.
there's multiple children in one home. But the number of phone calls is around 80,000. When we do emails, we're upwards of 120,000 email addresses. When we do text messages, we're in the 70,000 range. So every time a message comes from the district, we do it via email, via text, via phone call, and mobile app. So depending on what you like, you have multiple options to get that message, and we try to hit you in multiple ways. So some people don't like a phone call, so they opt out of the phone call, but they get the email or they like the text. And it's interesting, we can look at the data and we're seeing the generational change.
It's going to text.
It's going to text, it's going to mobile app. These younger parents of kindergarten through 4th and 5th grade, they like, a text and a mobile app push.
But
Something
that's
that comes
hard for
across.
you and me, though, don't you think? I mean, because you are, you're a relationship person.
Right.
I'm a realtor. I'm a relationship person. I can send the text, like right now, we're doing this. I've got a walkthrough. One of my friends is on my team is helping my client go through the walkthrough, and then, we're going to go to the closing after this. But, calling my people up and saying, hey, got this going on or whatever, that, there are realtors out there that don't even like to pick up their phone. They just text you everything. Sometimes I think it's for record keeping to say, hey, I can download it all and say, well, no, you said this or you said that. But I feel like I can get further with an individual through a phone call than I can with a text message.
Yeah.
But also I guess the biggest thing for you guys is that what time does that, hey, school's canceled call go out?
We try to do it before our first bus drivers have to hit the roads.
Okay.
So normally that's around the 5:30 mark in the
All right.
morning.
And so most people want that as a text.
But we really, really try hard to get it the night before because
Right.
it's much easier for parents to plan, to know what the day is going to hold for them because, a lot of parents still have to go to work.
Right.
Even if schools are closed, parents have to work. So we really try hard to make it the night before if at all possible.
All right, so we're going to come back to the communications part because we all know that because there are memes, there's Facebook groups, there's T-shirts.
A few.
Yeah, nice. You're like David Daggett. I'm like, there's memes about you and all this. Okay, yeah, and then you're like, yeah, okay. They're taking pictures of Superman and Aquaman and putting you as Aquaman getting ready to tackle a parent. I mean, this is serious stuff. And I understand that you do have some intel in those groups. It's usually your sisters in the groups. I'm like, I'm sharing it with my brother. So that's one aspect. So not only communications to everyone, what else do we do?
What else do we do as a
You.
district? So we also manage our print shop. So we have a large print shop for the district that is commercial grade printing from banners to posters to large scale, large quantity printing. I mean, we're doing somewhere upwards of 1 million copies a month. Lots of printing, but that's for the district, so for the schools. So we can do it at a cost rate that's cheaper than if we use some outside vendor to print these materials.
Right.
So we manage that. And then I also manage our community engagement team, which houses the volunteer program. So all of our volunteers in the district, which is around 10,000 or so volunteers.
My wife's volunteer. Can we pull her up and revoke her status?
Yeah, look at her.
Yeah,
We can sign her out.
Yeah,
No, but
okay.
we never do that. We need our volunteers.
Yeah, no, and that's So these are all aspects we got to talk
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
So volunteers and community engagement and business partnerships. So everything really, if you think about it, forward-facing the community is within this team.
So I got a couple questions I want to ask, and they are, how do we help? I think we probably ought to do them after the break, but I want to know how do we help our teachers. So I will ask a different question first, and that is, we were talking about your new superintendent. Mm-hmm. She's phenomenal. I mean, I'll say it for you. I already know what you think. So she has said something that I don't want to steal all her thunder because I went through the chief communications office and she'll be on the show in a few weeks. She said something and you've repeated it. You have many stakeholders, but there's really only one that's the most important, and I want you to share who the most important stakeholder is that you guys work with.
That's our students.
And I don't think parents and some people are ready to hear that. But it is truly the student, isn't it? Take, for example, I'm going to call him this because, it's Dr. Markel. I mean, we manage 2 fantasy football teams together. He's Justin to me. This is important
He's
stuff.
our new
right
principal
here.
at Moore.
We're 1-1 on, we're
right.
1-0 on one team. We lost because he listened to me. So, but he's telling me about some of the. First of all, you have not only volunteers in his school, but you also have professional tutors that are based out of his school for different things. Then, and I guess I should just get him on the show too. What's up with the nursing station? And there's some nurses that are available not only for his students that are coming, but there'll also be, if you're sick at another school and can't get in a doctor, they can bring. I don't know the whole program, and you may not know the whole program, but because I think it's in its infancy. But is that a question for the superintendent?
So, well, I can answer some of those, but very generally and broadly speaking, we got a lot of new relationships. One of them is with Atrium Health and Wake Forest Baptist, and there's some virtual appointments that can be done now at schools. They can work with kids who are sick right then and there and get them a virtual appointment. We also have clinics at some of our schools, like Petrie, for example, has a medical clinic within the school.
Right.
That students and the greater community can come and have access to health care. It's within a piece of the school.
Okay.
And so we have that replicated at Mineral Springs Middle, and Mineral Springs Elementary has one of those as well. So that's through another group within the community. So we've got lots of different ties because, the school really becomes a community hub. It still is. It's still a community hub. You think about all of these communities within Forsyth County, and where the school is. The school's the hub of Rural Hall,
Safe
for
place.
example, or of Mineral Springs or Conoke, or where those community schools are. So we really work to become that hub and that piece that connects everybody and connects our families and our community and our resources. There's a buzzword that we're using called wraparound services, but if a kid's not healthy, if a kid doesn't have the supplies, if it doesn't have food and those things that children need or that the family needs, they can't be successful in school.
Right.
So we try to wrap around and help families have access to all these other pieces in the community so that in turn, the end goal is that they do well in school.
Yeah, so I went by to see him on 3432 Day. I'll show you the picture. And the whole student, there was probably 100 or 200 kids inside of the lunchroom when I walked in with balloons, because he's a huge Michigan fan, that shouted Happy 3432 Day for me to Dr. Markel. He then gave me a tour, and one of the things that I never even thought of, but it's so relevant, is sometimes if someone just needs someone to talk to, and with some of the services he has in his school, there's someone that can just talk to a child and learn what's going on.
Yep, that's a huge piece this day and age too. The term we use is social emotional learning, but we teach a lot of things, but we also need to help children understand what their emotions are saying to them and what their social world and how does that impact how they're feeling and what they're doing and what they're able to do at school.
Before we take a break, David Daggett said last week, when you give a kid a backpack and it's a cool backpack filled with stuff or whatever, and that's their first day of school, a happy first day of school makes a year. A sad first day of school breaks a year.
It's true.
It's crazy.
I would say that.
So I want to talk more about people getting engaged, because I've got a question for you. And so we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Camel City Chat with Brent Campbell, Chief Communications Officer. Dang it, Chief Communications and Engagement.
External
relations. Yeah. See, I should cut this out, but I don't, because people know how stupid I am. Brent Campbell, Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools.
There you go.
All right, so we got the 2 questions I really want to ask you. We also need to ask I want to ask how people can support our schools. But before that, I want to go down a path that is the unfun part of your job, and that is when we have events. So the 2 that come to mind is Ed is actually married to someone I went to high school with. So we have a shooting in Mount Tabor, and a friend of mine is a fraternity brother, works there, who went to school with you. So I'm texting him, hey, I don't need any updates other than just you okay? I'm fine, John. It was outside my classroom, etc. And so I think that helped you all out in one aspect, because people were getting the message out, but then it also turned around. I have a friend of mine whose son went to school there, and she took a picture of him when he finally was able to get to where he was going, and there's a rainbow behind him, and she, what a touching moment for the parent to be connected. But you guys handled that like rock stars.
Thank you.
And changing around where the kids were going because of still fears and things. And so how do you handle something like that? And then as we've talked in breaks, COVID was even harder to handle because of what are we doing today? What do we do? Bobby was out there, Chief Thompson was out there and all that. The mayor, I mean, how do you handle something like that with the number one concern being the kids and the number two concerns being the parents? And then, hey, we'll share with the community what's going on, but the most important thing is getting the kids.
That day was a true lesson. We rehearsed for these things, practice scenarios all the time. But a scenario where you have a student who has committed an act, has left the scene, you don't know where they are, there's a pending thunderstorm, there's, of course, family trying to figure out what's going on. We had just lots of things that happened throughout the day that threw a kink into that rehearsal or to how that timeline should go or to how things should change. So that day is actually now being used as an exercise day in and of itself
I was
across
going
the
to ask
country.
that. I mean, old JC thing was you had to do a chairman's planning thing and write everything down. I mean, are you getting calls for that? Are you guys?
Oh, yeah. And in fact, I'm leading a session with the superintendent and our security officer at the South Carolina School PR Association. So
Right.
it's the association of folks that are in the same job as me across the two states. And we're walking through that day, and we're walking through the things that happened and the roadblocks that got thrown in there that you wouldn't expect or that maybe you didn't know were going to happen, such as having to change reunification sites and multiple law enforcement agencies involved and just all the different pieces. Weather, you wouldn't think about weather being an issue, but when you're trying to reunify parents and students and maybe your venue's outside, then you need to be inside, and so all of that changes. So there were just lots of things that changed on the fly that day that we had to work through, and so we're using that to hopefully help other people think ahead and think about it. And that's really what we do very well in education, I do think, is that we learn from each other. When something happens, we learn from each other, and then we try to help each other along the way so that they are stronger when they respond to whatever that situation is.
Yeah, I mean, we lost a student, but that change is now, do we prevent losing more students in a different situation? Much like, I'll throw another one in here. You may not always like that you have to stay home and you're missing a day of work and taking PTO, but that road right over there and there that's iced that prevents that kid from driving, that creates the accident, we've saved a student. Your inconvenience could be life-saving. And again,
Correct.
It's not the parent, it's the student.
Well, or the bus. I mean, the thing people I think often forget is that more than half of our students depend on a bus to get to and from school.
Right.
They have no other way. That's 30-some thousand students who need a bus. Well, buses have enough troubles with governors and all the regulations, on speed and how they have
finding
to
bus
drive.
drivers. You guys are always looking for bus drivers.
So then add into that tricky weather and ice that they're not made to use or to be used
Right.
in, becomes the situation. So we have to put those students' life first.
Right.
Put safety first in those decisions and not take a chance, not take any chances.
All right, so, and as we talked about, COVID has been probably your hardest challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And how is that? What makes that, what made that so difficult for you?
I think it's what made it difficult for us was what made it difficult for everybody. The unknown. We didn't know what was going to happen next and when, and we've never been through this. And how do we weather this? I mean, the Sunday, or I guess it was a Saturday, that the governor announced that schools were closing for 2 weeks. We went right into immediate mode of what are we going to do? How are we going to continue teaching students? We can't be out of school for 2 weeks. We can't miss 2 weeks of instruction. What do we need to do? So we immediately worked that weekend to try to figure out those questions. Well, what do we do about the families who don't have Wi-Fi? All right, we may have every family or every student has a computer in this district, but every family may not have Wi-Fi. What about food? What about parents who still have to work?
Right.
What do they do? Where do those kids go? What's going to happen to those students? We know that a lot of our kids, the only healthy, good meals they get are the now breakfast, lunch, and dinner that we do at a lot of schools from school. So we wanted to make sure that they still have access to those things. And then the child care piece, like I mentioned. So there were so many pieces, and it's the unknown of, is it going to be 2 weeks, then it turns into 4 weeks, then it turns into a month, then it turns into, so much more. So that was an ever-changing. I think that was the challenge. Every day was different, and there was a new challenge to meet every single day.
And let's take it past that now, since we all dealt with it. And I completely understand that, but you said something that reminded me of something we've talked about in the breaks, and that's feeding our students. We got to do better. I mean, you guys are doing your best, but there are students that are leaving school on Friday and they don't eat until Monday in some
Right.
cases. Now they may be snacking or stuff, but how do we do better? So my question, I told you about, I knew Justin at Southwest, right around the corner from where we live, and it's like, the food pantry. So we helped out a little bit there and got some different people involved. My buddy Rick Babuziak had, he has a thing that if you call him for a quote, then that month it went to Southwest. They have that Super Bowl, which is they bring stuff in, and they've got some really good people that run that. But one thing was the shelves were dilapidated. Yeah, and so I'm like, well, I know a lady I work with works at Lowe's Foods, and they're redoing stores, so they brought in all that stuff. I mean, it goes back to not text messages, phone calls.
Relationships.
How do people help out? Because we do drives for book packs, we do drives for school supplies, we do drives, but I know is it better for me as an individual to call up and say, hey Brent, I want to do something, and it may not be the school that's right across the street from me, it may be another school. Is it better to ask what school? Can we get that information?
That's
from
very
you?
helpful, yes, and that's what our community engagement team really is here to do. We realized some time back that when folks like yourself, for example, wanted to see, well, what's needed, there was nowhere for you to look to see what's needed. There was no place you could figure out, well, this school needs this, but this school already has this, or what types of things, community support, don't they have? So we're really working with our community engagement team to pull all that together so that our partners can see what we need, but we also can organize that so that some schools don't get overrun with school supplies when another school may be sitting over here really in need of school supplies, but it's not something that people think about them possibly needing. So we're really working hard to kind of help that and develop a system where we can manage how that works and make sure that everybody gets what they need and that one school's not getting more attention than another school. Because there's need at every single school, let's be clear. It's not the schools that you always hear of. There are children that need food and supplies and clothing and support and help at every single school. So there's opportunity at every single one of our schools.
Oh, I mean, I again, back to Dr. Markell. I mean, we're chatting. I'm like, do you have a pantry here? He says, yeah. And then you tell me it's almost every school has a pantry, doesn't it?
A food pantry.
Yeah. And I know Southwest helps, 10 to 30 families. And so, we're very fortunate. But there are some families that go here to get food, here to get food, here to get food. My dad, loves the Clemens Food Pantry out of his church. There are different places to go, but to have it in the school, and then there are backpacks that are stuffed to go home on the weekends.
Yep.
How do people? So do we go to our website? Is there a way people
You can go to our community engagement page, and that explains how to get in touch with our team.
Okay.
And that's a great first step. But you can also reach out directly to your school and say, hey, what do you need? Is there something that you need? And normally the principal and the admin team are very well aware of that. And hopefully they'll tell you what they do or don't need, perhaps. Right. But we're happy to help guide you, to help figure that out, to make that relationship for you, to build to you. Because admittedly, sometimes principals, they have a lot going on. They have a lot to do. So we're also here to help them, take that burden off of them, and help them figure out and make that connection, I guess, is what I'm really trying to say. So reach out to us.
Don't you think the administrator, the administrator of a school, basically, the principal, don't you think that's one of the hardest jobs? Because not only are they dealing with the students, they're dealing with the parents.
Couldn't do it.
They have 3 bosses, plus then you've got parents calling and saying, hey, can you get my kid into your school? mean, I kidded with you one night and said, hey, lottery's coming up. Think about applying. John, put it in. I'm like, no pull, Brent? And you're like, put it in. I ain't looking at it, man. Just picking back with me. And but it is truly pulled so many ways. Mm-hmm. And so we can help our teachers by contacting principals. If somebody needs something special or whatever, I do it at my daughter's school. I'm like, hey, what do you need for the classroom?
Yep.
I get to do laundry once.
It's that relationship, to your point earlier. It's really about building those relationships and knowing your child's teacher, your school. But again, it may not necessarily be at your child's school or a school that's your neighborhood school if you don't have children in school. There's there's pockets of needs throughout this community that we can all support. And we have a great community. I do want to say that. We have a fantastic community that provides so much support that we're truly thankful.
It blows me away the amount that people give back in our community, but there's always more that they can do. And I'm not saying like, hey, here's $1,000 to support XYZ team in college, and then they turn around and immediately go, hey, we know you just gave us $1,000, give us more. The appreciative side of you all, when we did that Hammer 5, I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. Oh my gosh, they kept bringing stuff. Oh my gosh, and then you distributed them to the schools that needed them. All right. So we got 2 questions left. You ready?
Well,
Go ahead and say what you're going to say.
I was going to say, I want to touch on that. I don't want people to think, too, that we're just looking for stuff.
Right.
Time is
My wife's a
huge
volunteer.
gift.
So, and how hard is
gift?
Reading with a student is phenomenal, isn't it?
Oh, phenomenal. 30 minutes a week, 30 hours. 30 minutes a week can make a huge difference. We have a lot of programs that do ask for 2 days, 30 minutes, 2 times a week to work with kids. Part of our Reading Warriors program, part of our goal to improve literacy. But just sitting down with a child and giving them that one-on-one attention and reading with them can make a huge difference in their success overall. But obviously we don't have enough teachers that a teacher can sit down with every child individually for multiple minutes a day, a week, a year. So we need volunteers.
All right, let's work on that. When this is over with, I want to talk. I think I remember reading to a student as a realtor. Let's see if we can get a challenge out there to realtors, home builders, to try and just get students in. So let's come together on that one. All right, now, so 2 questions. I think we got about 3 minutes. Question number 1, this is the shorter one, I think, although knowing you're going to answer the other one shorter. You've been here long enough to see where Winston-Salem was. Mm-hmm. I know that you're blown away with where it is. What do we need? What do you see? How do we move on? I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it?
It's amazing. Downtown is so different.
When you started, it was like, signing off for Fox 8. Where's my car? I mean, out of town.
Because we couldn't eat lunch downtown.
4:30, you got to be. I mean, actually 4 o'clock, you got to be gone.
If we had to eat something during the day in downtown, we had to go over to Thruway, that area.
Thruway, the dill pickle occasionally.
There was hardly anything downtown to eat. Now you can't walk a couple of feet and there's another restaurant, something new, something different.
Oh, and the ethnicity of our restaurants downtown is phenomenal too. Yeah. So anything we need besides cutting, the swamp, what is it, the Swamp Rabbit Trail through downtown or something like that?
I don't know. I don't live downtown, but I know a lot of people that do. And I think the one thing they're missing is a grocery store. They're really missing that, and that ability to get that. There's so many things, and it's so walkable. I think that's the next horizon. And I'm sure the city's working on that and figuring out where that fits in the plan. But
it's hard to get.
We're there.
Yeah. Well, and if you cross 52, you only have that food line.
Right.
At New Walktown Road. I mean, we've got to get services to everyone.
We're there.
Yeah.
We're there.
And as they continue to build downtown, eventually there's going to be one. Was in Charlotte for the game this last weekend, and all these places I used to park. Heck, there's now a Whole Foods there.
Yeah.
It's like where did all this stuff come from?
The parking lot we used at the Journal's now an apartment complex.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
all right, this is the hard one for you because I know that you're a humble guy, and I also know that you really care about people, and that is, what do you want to be remembered for? As I told you, you have set a standard for this job. I mean, the day you decide to retire from this job or go on to different things, I don't want to be that person that steps into this. It's going to be a sad day for a lot of people when you quit calling them. But what do you want to be remembered for? And it doesn't have to be demise. Just so you know.
Well,
I want you to live a long life, buddy.
In all seriousness, I love to tie things back to past or history. And you see, sitting in my office, I have different megaphones.
Yep.
And I feel like that's how I've looked at my career over time, just in different places. I've been a megaphone, an amplifier for somebody's story, for somebody's voice. So in news, that was multiple people, different times, different places. Here, it's the amplifier for the district's voice. I mean, I truly believe the work that we're doing in this district is amazing work, and we have good people, have strong people, and I just hope I'm remembered for amplifying those stories and pushing those stories and those moments and those people that are really doing what's their life calling to help children, to better the community by helping children. I just want to be remembered as that.
I'm going to add one thing to that. Flavor Flav, you are truly a hype master. You really are. That's something that I love to do too. I mean, there is so much positivity that you shout out. Just looking around your room, your office, I mean, there's, I can see pictures of Fox 8. I can see, I cannot wait to hear the joke behind that. But I mean, it's, you care. And I really appreciate you. And I appreciate what you do. You can tell when someone's found something they love, and you are great at it. And I just want to say thank you. I wish I got the phone call. Don't you dare call me. I wish I got
you
the phone
to the
call.
list. It's really easy.
Yeah, I know. I wish I got the phone call, but no. I just want to say thank you, really, from the bottom of my heart. You are loved and appreciated, and you do a wonderful job. And thanks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So I don't remember when she's going to be on, but we're going to be airing her soon. So
you're going to love her. She's
superintendent's on, yep. So we will be back next week with more Camel City Chat. Don't forget about Smitty's notes and Jeff Smith. Check him out online. Stabler, you'll put up the hashtags and the video stuff for the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. And this is it, folks. Brent Campbell, Chief Communication and External
Relations
for the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System.